Yeah.
You know, it's like when you said a number of times in your life when you've made those major changes,
Yeah.
people thought you were a little crazy.
Right.
And I think what you said was, you know, it was brave
Yeah.
to do that. It required some bravery.
Yeah.
But you probably thought to yourself, well, it didn't feel all that
Yeah.
brave. It just seemed
Yeah.
like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it really, one thing I've learned, it comes down to recognizing that a person creates their own future. I think that's a very powerful place to come from.
Yes.
You know, is that I create my future. I make choices.
Yeah.
I say things that repel people or attract people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cultivate relationships that feed me or drain me. You know, people kind of lose sight of all that's about creating your future. Your future isn't just something that comes at you.
Right. Well, you are you're an active participant.
Yeah. So for me, it was really not sort of predicting what's next. It was, what do I want to create next?
Yeah.
You know, how do I want my life to be next? And if you can get some clarity around that, and I always have to talk to people to get clear on it.
Yeah.
I don't get clear on it just myself, so that's the relationship piece.
Yeah.
Then it's like, well, how do I get there? You know, what do I do first? What will take me there? And once I'm in that process with myself, it doesn't feel like this raw act of courage anymore. It
Yes.
just feels like going toward the light rather than going toward the darkness. And
Sounds like a Star Trek movie.
well, it's so interesting in these times. You know, if you listen to the news, and which I listen to less lately, by the way, it's basically a fear-based reporting most
True.
of the time.
Yeah.
You know, I love NBC News at the end that has
The little people.
the Make a Difference
Yeah,
segment.
yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
You know, but most of it it's enough to scare the socks off you.
Yeah.
You know, swine
And
flu,
depress you.
recession,
Yeah.
unemployment,
Yeah.
and you know, if you go back over the decades, there's always news like that.
Yeah.
It's what do you do with it? You know, what do you do with it? And I've learned that it's like the old Chinese symbol, you know, for change is the same symbol means crisis and it means opportunity.
Right.
So which side of that coin do you want to look for? And in every crisis, there's opportunity, personal opportunity.
Yeah.
A thing that's been important to me, I was in my 30s, maybe 40s before this really dawned on me, although my parents certainly tried to inculcate it in me, is the key also is an attitude of service. You know, so it's not an opportunity like what can I extract? It's an opportunity like
What can I
who
give?
can I serve? Who can I contribute? If all these things are broken, that means people need things. They need
Right.
they need help. They
Right.
need support. They need. Well, how can I offer that? The next thing I know, I've got an idea for my work, my life.
Yeah. So what's next for you? Do you know?
Well, this new company is very exciting. You know, we're beginning. You know, we spent the spring and summer talking to lots of people, and meeting the fear that a lot of people had. You know, people in companies saying, "Oh, it's very interesting, but you know, we're not spending any money. We're not doing anything."
A lot of people are holding back.
And we decided, you know, that's just fine. That's just fine. We're not upset by that. But we do want to ask you questions. You know, given what you care about, the people we're talking to, given what you care about, are you better served by hiding out, or are you better served by asking what's possible?
Yeah, so
we
it's a
just kept-
perfect time to ask for what's possible,
Exactly.
especially with all the
Yeah.
mess of the economy.
And a lot of
so
these
forth.
people, we said last year when we talked to you, you said you're too busy to think about this. Now you actually got time to think about this, and you're like, oh, it's not the time.
So what's
So,
next
yeah,
for you?
for me, yeah.
personally?
Yeah. That's you know, when I take it just out of the company construct,
Yeah.
I think this is my time to, as much of a almost addictive learner that I am, this is my time to teach, to contribute. So what's next for me personally, is to do more writing. You know, I had a good colleague friend of mine that I was excitedly telling her about this new book. And she says, Don, you need to do less reading and more writing. She says, I want to read your book. So I thought, thank you, friend. So more writing. I've begun journaling as a way to start capturing my thoughts, a daily practice. I'm also, on the very personal front, I've at 61, I've had some recent doctor visits that they're telling me some things that I'm like, whoa, there's some symptoms going on that I've sort of taken my body for granted, and now I'm paying attention to. And one way I could go is, well, just treat those symptoms and so I can forget about it. And I've decided, no, there's a whole nother possibility here, which is I'm actually going to change my whole lifestyle as it relates to my health.
Good for
as it
you.
relates,
so many people ought to be doing that.
So what's next
Good
for me
for
is I've become a vegetarian, and I thought, oh my God, this steak-loving boy from the Midwest is really going to have a hard time with that. I love it. It's actually quite exciting.
That's great.
I'm meeting new people who are associated with this.
Well, surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
And it's a whole new realm of learning. You know, it's learning about foods. And somebody last week told me, you should know the history of everything you put in your body. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, every food in the store has a history. And some have very positive histories, yes, eat that, and others are like,
that's
you
just
know,
a whole
this
new
pesticide was applied, that, you know.
That's a whole new
And I
way
thought,
of going.
I've never looked at food that way, and yeah. So that's sort of personal health, vibrancy, energy, living healthier for myself, but also just being a more conscious citizen on the planet is part of it.
As in the last few minutes that we have, do you have a piece of advice for people who are searching, trying to figure out what they want to do next? And do you have something you could leave us with?
Well, the first thing, you know, I was struck by a quote years ago that what's really important is doing what makes you come alive. So the first thing I would say to people is pay attention to what makes you come alive and do that. You want to serve the world,
that's great.
Do what makes you come alive. That serves the world. So whether it's what I'm doing with my health, whether it's something that you serve somebody else and watch their eyes light up, do what makes you come alive. And it is connected to service. The second thing I would say is look for opportunities to serve. And the third thing I would say is don't do it alone.
Thanks, Don. That's
You're welcome.
Fabulous. And thanks for being here.
It's been a pleasure. The time flew, didn't it?
It does. Oh my gosh, it so goes by so quickly. So you've just had a chance to hear Don's story, and here's what I learned from listening to him. Some things I've known, but it's great to be reminded. Don't do it alone, and do what you love to do. And pay attention to the things that you love to do. I've just been reading this great book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And Gay Hendricks talks about asking yourself the question, what do I most love to do? That I love it so much, I can do it for long stretches of time without getting tired or bored. So I'm wondering if that might be a good question for you to answer. What do you love doing that you could just do forever without getting tired or bored? And that might give you a clue for where to go next. If you like what you saw and heard today and you want to know more about what's next for you, go to www.themagicparties.com for some free support and some inspiration. And to learn more about Don and his work, go to www.praemiagroup.com. And if you have questions about today's show, you can always email us at info@themagicparties.com. So I'd like to thank Don for being here.
You're welcome,
Such
Wendy.
a treat to have you here.
It was
Thank you.
a lot of fun. Thank you.
And also to Pete and Brian for production and camera. And thanks to all of you, our listeners. You are meant to go forth in the world and use your gifts and talents. So don't be shy and don't be scared, and be a little brave and have a little fun exploring what's next, just waiting to burst forth from you. And wake up to what's next for you in your life. And join us next time as we continue to help you discover the magic of you.
Always fill up my sail. How far would I go? What could I achieve? Trusting the hero in me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread, and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take?